Well, welcome back to What's Broken. Today I'm doing the passenger side valve cover gasket. And the first thing was to drop that little protective plastic cover. Take a 19mm wrench and open the drain for the radiator. And I'm probably going to drain out, oh, I don't know, a couple of 3 gallons or whatever, just to, I don't know how much the system holds, but I just want to drain it out so that when I take the hoses off up top, I don't spill a whole lot of antifreeze all over the place. That's sort of the first step. So I think to begin with, I'm going to pop this breather hose out. It's just made out of plastic. Then there's another little, I don't know, some sort of cooling hose, 5/8 of an inch. That tees into a steel line. Get the clamp off that. Come on. Use my handy little hose pliers. Just wiggle it a bit to break it free. Ugh. And then try to get it off. You can hear quite a bit of gurgling and vacuum. So I'm hoping that means that a lot of the fluid's going down back into the radiator where I drained it out of. There's a little clip on the middle stud bolt. Pull the clip off, it's holding some wiring harness in place. And then this vacuum line can be sort of moved up out of the way. I think rather than take the spark plugs off at the wires off at the spark plug, I'm going to disconnect them from the cap and fold them back over to the side. Because that rear spark plug looks like it's a bit of a bear to get at. This side may not be quite as bad as taking the driver's side off. And bungee cord this hose back out of the way. Actually just push it. Or better yet, maybe just pop it up. Yeah. This pulls out. Now the plug wires are out of the way. There's a little clip here holding the cruise control cable. Just undo that to give myself some room. And now we'll see if I can get at some of these valve cover bolts. Middle one's out. Now for the front top one. Feels loose. Just turn it by hand. When I did the driver's side gasket yesterday, not sure if it's going to be part of this video or a separate video depending on how long they are, but the gasket was petrified and cracked and leaking, and I thought, well, even if this side isn't showing signs of leaking, I should probably change it anyway. Those wrenches are bolt heads. 8mm. I'm anticipating that these lines will be a little bit in the way of getting at some of the lower bolts, as well as just making it easier to take the valve cover out. So one of the bolts is down there, and I believe it's a, on this truck it's a 13mm. So I'll shut you off until I get that out of the way. I'm also going to undo this hose and the lower hose, just spring clips, and pull those back out of the way just to give me a little more room. So in part of this bracket where I said there's a, I think it was a 13mm nut, down lower there's a 15mm bolt. It allows just enough, if I pry back with a screwdriver, to get the socket and a couple extensions for the lower front stud. Okay, that one's loose. Then I need to get down at this center one here. There's a little spark plug holder clip that I'll pull off. That one should be accessible. The top left rear, I think I'll be able to get with a little box end wrench or be able to get in. The tricky one's going to be this, I think, this rear lower stud. So I'm going to pop this one off. I really can't get the camera in here to show you while I'm doing it, so I'll take the clip off with the plug wires, back that one out, get at the back one, and then I'll see what I can come up with for this lower back one. Okay, for the rear upper bolt, it's not a stud. I was able to get it with the 1/4-inch ratchet, a short socket, and about a 3-inch extension. Pull this little breather elbow off that goes to the let's see how easy this comes out. Well, one thing about it, I bet design engineers never work on their own vehicles. Anyhow, that's my rant for the day. I'm going to fight with this a little bit, and I'll bring you back once I figure out what the puzzle is to get this apart. Okay, in addition to that 15mm bolt and the 13mm nut, there's a little 10mm bolt in the frame that holds on. And hopefully it'll come out now. These are part of the cooling tubes. This affair here, the upper hose and the lower engine hose hook onto it. Now hopefully I can wrestle it out without breaking anything. I will say that is ignorant. They could have designed this a whole lot better, but oh well. Okay, well, I'm going to clean up some pieces. This maybe isn't quite as brittle as the driver's side was, but it's definitely not soft. There doesn't appear to be any cracks in it, but I thought, well, I do one, may as well do the other. Okay, I'm going to get this all cleaned up and I did find something a little, maybe not odd, but that will need attending to on the rear timing chain. Maybe it's just I think it's a spring-loaded and oil-driven hydraulic dampener or tensioner. But the timing chain does seem a tad loose, so that may be a bit of a larger project for another day. There, those are all in place. So again, this has sort of a textured, flat side. It can only really go in one way. And then the ceiling side. One good thing about these 4-liter engines that I saw online is that the tensioner, or whatever, the spring-loaded and hydraulic loaded tensioner for the timing chains they can be changed from the external fairly easily. So I'm kind of hoping that's all mine is, but I think the chain might be a little worn. It's a 20-year-old vehicle, but it's only got, I think now 142,000 kilometers on it. So it doesn't show signs of being driven hard from other things I can see. So maybe I'll get lucky and just have to put that timing chain tightener or tensioner in. Or maybe I'll have to pull the motor and put in timing chains. There's 3 of them on this apparently. Looks to be properly seated everywhere. Some 1030. Just to assist in making sure it slides back where it should. Got a feeling it's going to be a little cranky trying to fit it back in there from the way it came out. So here's what I was talking about earlier. There's a fair amount of play in that timing chain. The front one was really tight when I did the other one. I'm not sure if it has to do with the spring-loaded and hydraulic sort of charged tensioner or not. It's down below and is accessible from sort of under the wheel well. So I'm going to look into that a little bit, but for now I'm going to pop the top back on and button it up and start putting some of these hoses and wires and whatnot back in place. Okay, so I got the valve cover back on, and I torqued up the bolts to 60 and then to 80 inch-pounds. The very back two at the rear of the engine, I just sort of did them by hand with a little 1/4 inch ratchet because I couldn't get the torque wrench in there. This manifold assembly proved to be a bit of a pain, but because this hose won't fit between the alternator and the filler tube, so I had to take the hose off, take the manifold out, take the hose off, and then I sort of slid it through here at a bit of an angle. Now I'm going to try to fit the hoses back on where they belong, and the other end has to push down over the inlet into the block. And again, they didn't leave a whole lot of room for anything in these. The funny thing is, there's enough room. They could have routed this stuff in a bit of a different manner, but hey, I didn't design it, I just bought it. I'll put you down while I wrangle this on and then bring you back in for some of the other stuff. Okay, so that was just a little bit interesting, getting that clamp on down below. This one wasn't too bad. I may loosen it up after I get the brace or whatever in place and push that hose on another 3/16 of an inch. Looks like it was on a little farther before. But now what I'll be working on is putting this back in place with that 15 mil bolt and what, 13 mil or 10 mil, and then the nut. So again, there's not really any room for you to watch while I'm in working, so I'll bring you back once I button that up. So I got that bracket for the hoses hooked up, and now it's time to put a little hose on. I think they could have left maybe a millimeter of room. Anyhow, I think it's going on. And the other end just slips on here. You got a hose that, I guess it's a lower engine hose. It slipped back on there, right there. And these two can go back on. Lower engine hose, and I'll put the upper one on, but I think I'll tighten up those clamps first, so need two hands, so I'll put you down. It's just a press on. Pops into the breathing tube. I'll probably put a zip strap around. Looks like the tape came off this alternator cable. Plug in spark plug 1, plug number 2. Come on. There we go, 1, 2, and 3. They're back in place. The only other thing is I'll fill the rad back up with some fluid and then I'll bring you back for the startup. Well, I got it fired up and doesn't appear to be any coolant leaks. We'll take it out on the highway and then check those valve covers. Make sure there's no oil leaks. It should be good to go. Alrighty, we'll catch you on the next one. Have yourselves a good day.